We are on Chav Dalet Amud Aleph. Let's start from the Mishnah. So let's start from Chav Gimel base, the bottom. Chav Gimel base. No, one more. No, forward. Yeah, you're in Shvius. Now you're in Rai Masechta, but too far. Oh, you missed the whole week this week. Next page. Mishnah the bottom. Okay? Lacha Ches. You have a measure of truma which fell on top of not a container, but rather a large pile, v'kafa, and you removed the top level. Okay. Now, obviously the truma fell on the top level, but I don't know precisely where. Imagine to yourself a big pile of truma, like a silo of truma, and you removed a big pile worth of chulin, and a little bit of truma fell on the top. So now you remove the entire top layer. The thing is, you don't have really enough in the top layer to cancel the truma, because although truma midaraisa is batel in rov, a simple majority, Mirabai need 100 of the chulin to cancel one truma. Okay? So Rabbi Lezer says in this case, Im yesh ba'kipu me'asayid, we have to look at the level, the layer which you removed. If that layer's got 100 measures of chulin, then that cancels the one of truma, tala be'achuramea. It cancels the one of truma, and it's good. Rabbi Shomer lo tala, Rabbi Shua says it doesn't work. Now, we're going to explain this in greater detail here, but Rabbi Yeshua holds that in this case, even if there is 100 to 1, doesn't work. We can't be mavato. Why is that? Because here he intentionally removed a layer. Removing a layer intentionally is the problem of ein mevatlin isur chatchila. What is not allowed to go and attempt to secure a bittul intentionally. And therefore, since he intentionally removed the one measure of truma with 100 measures of chulin, so that is a no-no, right? In that case, it makes it how should we say? It makes it mevatel isur chatchila. It's a prohibited activity, and therefore it's not batel.
Even though it accidentally fell.
Even though it fell accidentally, since the removal was purposeful, so therefore it's no good. Okay? Sa truma shenafla al pia magura. If you have a measure of truma which fell on top of this big pile, and you know where it is, then of course you can better just remove it. Vim Kate, if that's the case, Lamo Mutro Truma Oila Truma Ola Bechonamea. Where do they say that Truma is cancelled 1 in 100? B'Sheni Oduim Bluosheim, when you don't know if it got mixed in, Ola enough you don't know where it fell. In that case, of course, it is Bata 1 in 100, because you say in that case that the mixture is a true mixture. Okay, let's see the Gemara. Well, actually, maybe we should finish the Mishnah. No, let's go to the Gemara. We'll come back to the Mishnah later on. Okay, Mechalfa Shitasid Rabbi Lezer. There's a contradiction to Rabbi Lezer's opinion. Tamanu Omer, previously Rabbi Lezer had said, Tachtonos Ma'os Salyonos, that if you have too much found top of the barrel, so we take into account the bottom of the barrel and say, well, taking into account the bottom, it's 100 to 1. Yet here he says we look at the top layer by itself. We do not look at the top layer in conjunction with the bottom layer, but rather we look at it independently. Again, there he said that the bottom layer does work to cancel the top layer and make sure it's all chulin. But here he says we look at the top layer itself. The top layer has, I don't think you have the words kashir in. Do you? If the shkipui has enough that'll cancel, meaning 100 to 1, that's sufficient. Then that works. or Arisa, but literally the land, meaning the bottom, you don't take into account, so it's a contradiction. In a prior Mishnah, Rabbi Eliezer said that where you have a huge batch, even if they're not fully mixed, you look at the entire batch, and you see if the bottom has 100 opposite the one on top, that's Bato. Here he's saying when you remove the top layer, you only look at the top layer removed and not at anything else.
You say there that the barrel counted as part of the sides of the barrel?
Not the sides of the barrel. No. Only the contents of the barrel. No, never the sides of the barrel, just the contents. We said that the stuff on top, but not the lid. The lid and the sides never count. They never count. Okay, so it says the Gemara, Rabbi Yehuda bar Abba Shem Rabbi Yochanan. There are a couple of answers here. Rabbi Yehuda bar Abba Shem Rabbi Yochanan and Shimon bar Abba Shem Rav Kana said, the Divrei Rabbi Eliezer also so kamar b'mezid. According to Rabbi Eliezer, they said here when you remove the top layer, it's as if you're doing it intentionally, right? And since you're removing it intentionally, so therefore we fine you. So how do we find you? We say the top layer itself has to have 100. We don't take the bottom layer into account. That's one interpretation. Why Rabbi Eliezer here is more machmir than he previously was. Rabbi Elo and Rabasi and B'Shem Rabbi Yochanan said that Rabbi Eliezer also according to Rabbi Eliezer they made it kisei oila mitoch mea. They said the layer which you pick up is like a one measure which you pick out of 101. This is halach we had previously in the parak. We said that if you take when the truma is canceled in the 100 chulin, so nonetheless you have to pick up one measure and give it to the kohen. Give it to the kohen as a semblance of truma. Right? We said that earlier. So now we're saying that when you took Rabbi Eliezer says the whole top layer which you removed has this status. The whole top layer I consider to be as if it is the truma you're giving to the kohen. Why is that? Because it's the same mechanics. Just like where I have a true cancellation, the 1 in 100, I take up one and give it to the kohen. Here too I took up. I took up as a layer, that's true. But taking up as a layer means I give the whole layer a status as if it is truma. So therefore, in order not to be able to say that, there must be 100 to 1 chulin to truma within that layer which I skimmed off itself, without taking into account the rest of the barrel. Okay? In other words, here there's an additional stringency because of the removal process you're engaged in. Okay? Which makes it akin to the one which you remove in order to give to the kohen. Says the Gemara, what's the difference between the two approaches in Rabbi Eliezer? So, Daitid Rabasi, according to Rabasi, who said that the issue is, that it looks like you picked up truma. So, mutar l'rabos, according to him, that's true. If you have less than 100 chulin, opposite that truma. But if you have more than 100 chulin opposite that truma, it doesn't look like you picked it up. And he says that since the whole problem is what it looks like, so therefore you're allowed to add on. Let's say you skimmed off only the one seah of truma plus 60 seah of regular stuff. So then you can tack on another 40. You can add on another 40 intentionally. Why? Because again, to be bato is already bato. How's it bato? Because we do take into account the bottom of the barrel and canceling the top of the barrel. The figs on the bottom and canceling figs on the top. Here's a special chumrah. You said, however, that once you remove a layer, it looks like you're removing it to make a truma, so therefore it has to have a cancellation internally within that layer. So since that's a chumrah on top of a chumrah, we say you only have to make sure it's there. It doesn't have to happen on its own, and therefore you can add on another 40 to make sure it happens. You don't have to it doesn't have to happen accidentally. It can even be intentionally. Okay? Al Daita Rav Kana also Rabbis, according to Rav Kana, who said that the taking off of the layer is in and of itself a despicable act, because it looks like you're trying to be mavatal and isser l'chatchila to get rid of the isser. So therefore, we fine you for your despicability. And once you took it up and it didn't work, also rabbis, you can't try and make it work afterwards. Only if it happened unintentionally, but not to intentionally try and make it work. Kafa v'chazer v'kafa. Let's say another nafkamina. He's removed some, but it wasn't enough, and then he wanted to remove more. Al-Daitit Rabasi, Rabasi, Mutter, you're allowed to remove more, right? Because there's no concept of Vatlan Isul Chatchila. Al-Daitit Rav Kahana also, Rav Kahana, it's forbidden. Because that continues to look like Mevatel Isul Chatchila. Al-Daitit Rabasi, Rabasi's line of reasoning, Abal Pishalo shiur, even though there's no truma left after the first skimming, you're allowed to skim some more and put the two skims together in order to comprise a 100-to-1 ratio. Because again, he holds this as unique stringency, and therefore the concept of Ein Vatlan Isul Chatchila doesn't apply here. And you can take a skim, and if that's not enough, you can take a second skim off the top, and together comprise 100. Al-Daitit Rav Kana V'Hushashir. Rav Kana says you can take a second skim, but only if you left some truma in the original big batch. Because then you have an excuse. You're saying, why am I taking the second skim? Not to be a Vatl Isul Chatchila. No, that's not my intent. I'm taking the second skim because I don't know if I got all the truma the first time. Now, it might happen to be that as a result of this, between your two skimmings off the top, you'll have enough to make 100-to-1. But that's like this getting to 100-to-1, not like this. So therefore, since it's indirect and not direct, that's okay. What he wants you not to do is not to intentionally put up to 100-to-1. But if it unintentionally got to 100-to-1, because he said, well, anyway, I have to go back and take it some more because I'm not sure I got all the truma the first time, that suffices and that's okay. Alright? Says this, let's go back to the Mishnah. Let's go back to the Mishnah. On the top of Chav Daled Amud Aleph now. We're about the fourth line down. Shtei kupos. Do you see that? Shtei kupos or shtei meguros. About the fourth line down. Second line down. Oh, sorry. Second line. Shtei kupos. I'm just guessing from what I have in front of me. Shtei kupos or shtei meguros. You have two baskets or two large piles. It's a very big chiddush we're about to learn. You have two baskets, two large piles. And the measure of truma fell into one of them. You don't know to which one of them it fell. You don't know. So one has 50 and the other has another 50, let's say. So the Gemara is going to speak about that. They're malo zu as zu. Since you don't know to which one it fell, they're both considered to be part and parcel of the same suffix. Since they're both part and parcel of the same suffix, we combine the measurements. So if one has 50 and the other has 50, together makes 100, and everything is batel. If Shimon Omer, to such an extent, if it's two baskets, even if one basket is in New York, another basket is in Chicago, malos, but you don't know to which one it fell. The basket in New York and the basket in Chicago, since they're part of the same suffix, so therefore together they can comprise 100-to-1. It's extraordinary kula. It's only because this is all D'Rabbanan, because Midaraisa is batel anyway 1 and 2. But since it's all D'Rabbanan to require 100-to-1, so therefore Chazal were lenient. Tani will in shtei kubas b'shtei aliyos. If you have two of these baskets on two separate floors, so I say nonetheless they are joined together. Shtei meguros b'aliyah achas. It's true also of two large piles when they're in the same warehouse. Haval, however, shtei meguros b'shtei aliyos, two warehouses in two separate floors, lo b'da, in that case they're not mitzdarif. Why is that? Because ma'ben kupos meguros, what's the difference between baskets and large piles? Kupos tarkan lispanos. Kupos, the small piles, or the small baskets, are normally removed. They're frequently removed, so therefore it's not necessarily from the. They're frequently. I shouldn't say removed. They're frequently moved around, so therefore it's very possible that these two piles, one in New York, one in Chicago, will someday meet. These two baskets. However, Meguros ain't darkon lispanos. However, piles are generally not moved. They're generally very stationary. So therefore, they're not considered to be fused together vis-a-vis our halacha. The only time we say this fusion concept is when they're both mobile and hypothetically they could both come together in some place at some time and bond properly. Okay? Says more further. Rabbi Zir and Rabbi Chia b'shem Reish Lakish. Rabbi Zir and Rabbi Chia both said name Reish Lakish. Shem Rav Shimon, you are? Are you shlufanam shtei kupos? You had in front of you two baskets. V'zucha mishim son, one he had 50 measures. So v'zucha mishim son, the other one 50 measures. Nafla say a truma v'tzolch achas mehen, and a measure of truma fell to one of them. V'nidu meisen nafla. You don't know to which one it fell. So now it's bato because it's 1 in 100. That's bato. But we learned earlier, you still have to take up one and give it to the Kohen. From which basket you take the one to the Kohen? So Rotz allows mizumalu. If you want to take from one, you can take it. If you want to take from the other one, you can take it. Mechza mizu, if you want to take half of it from this basket, mechza mizu and half from the other basket, malud also works. So everything goes. Tanan. I'm sorry, I don't have Tanan, sorry. Now at top of Chav Dalman base. This is Zuger. Top of the next page. V'chein shnei mikvos. So to two mikvos. A little bit of an obscure halach we're about to learn. Two mikvos. B'zeh esrim asa, b'zeh esrim sa. What's the shiur for mikvah? 40. How much you have in each one here? 20. 3 lugim mayim shuvim fall in now. Okay, v'naflu shloshos lugim mayim shuvim toch echad mehem. One of the mikvos gets 3 lugim mayim shuvim, and we don't know which one. We don't know. One of the two. So in that case, we say it passes the mikvah. You have to remove now from the mikvah 20 sa'ah of water, because that's what was there before the rainwater fell in. Before the bucket water fell in, right? So because each one had 20. So it didn't fall into both the mayim shuvim. We just don't know into which one.
Just take out 3 lug of water.
Because that might not include the entire 3 lug which fell in. The only way you're remotely sure that you got the 3 lug was by taking all 20, right? But here the catch is you don't have to take out all 20 from both of them. You only take out 20 altogether. You can do from 20 and 0, 10 and 10, 5 and 15, and so on and so forth. All that is okay, okay? If you want to take out the shiur, kriya literally means the core, but here means the shiur of what's possible from this one motzi. If you want to take it from the other one, you can take it from there. Mechza, if you want to split it off the difference, half and half motzi, then in that case also we say that you can take out 10 saw from this mikvah and 10 saw from that mikvah, and that's as if you took up 20 saw from from one mikvah. Okay, again, it's all the rabbanans. According to Rishonim, it's only a psul d'rabbanan, not a psul d'oraisa. So therefore, there are certain kulos which apply in this case. This is Mayim Shuvim. Yeah, seems that it might be good enough. Okay, not everybody goes that way, but there are some which are more that way. Rabbi Simon, you have Rabbi Simon? Rabbi Simon, Shem Rabbi Pedoya. What do you have there? Rabbi Pedoya? Right, okay. I have put up shtei kupos. You had in front of you 2 baskets. B'zucha mishim saw. In each one there's 50 measures. Enough, let's say a truma and a measure of truma fell into one of them. It's known, lezemem nafla. And then the second one fell. You don't know to which one it fell. So we have a kula. We say to the place where the first one fell. Sham nafla, that's where the second one fell. The lama, why is that? We relate that which is ruinous to that which is already ruined. Okay? Riba. Right. Save money. Ruin the bad one. Right. Riba ayadua bitla shoygate. What if you knew where it was but there wasn't enough. In other words, it was 1 to 50, let's say. But unintentionally, then you added more stuff later on and brought it up to 1 in 100. Ma'aleh, you're allowed to do that. Then you can rely on that. You take out 1 and you take out 1 and you're matu the rest of it. Vashniya chazer lo chicha. And after that, each one which you want to aser requires proof. In other words, the burden of proof that it's aser is on whoever wants to prove that it's aser. I don't know what that's going to be. But the burden of proof that it's aser is not upon you, because you already, when it was batel, made it batel for all time. Okay, if someone wants to overturn that and appeal, then they have to find evidence. Nimsu shtei sayin olos min mea v'chamishim seah. In this case, you're going to have 2 measures of truma. Is it 2? I think it's like this. Let me go back a line. You add it on to one which is known. It will beat law unintentionally. You know, the one which is known unintentionally, shogeg. Malamati, that's good. It works. Vashniya, if a second one falls in, then it needs a burner proof is upon it that it should not be batel. So nimtzu stay saying olos mimeh v'chamishim seah. So in this case, even though altogether we only have 150 seah, it's an arbitrary number. But we start off with 50 and then we add it off, right? We start off with 50 and 50 and then we add it up in 1 to 100, right? So now it's 150 together, right? So this 150 together is working to be mavatel 2 sin. The first saw, right, which then was canceled because many more things poured in, and then the second saw, which fell in later on. Not making myself clear, am I?
Why, if the second saw falls in, it's no longer, wouldn't you have to make it like 200 saw?
No, that's the Gemara is trying to say. You only need 150 in that case because the first one is already batel. It's gone. Right.
So then the second one will have to be bucket 2 and 2.
No, so you can use it over again. This 100 can recycles itself. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay?
So how they arbitrarily chose another 50?
Could have been any number. You start over with 50 and 50, which was not enough. Then, and when a saw fell into one of the 50s, then that 50 got another 50 to bring it up to 100. So that the measure of Truman, that is batel. Now a new one falls into any one of these two, we don't know which one, so they both join together, it's 150, canceling whatever's there. Okay? Higher state kupos, if there are 2 buckets. Bezu chamishim or baskets. Bezu chamishim saw in each one, there chamishim saw, bezu chamishim saw, each note 50 saw. Nafla saw truma taluch achas man, and saw of truma falls into one of them. Ve'ena dulays and we don't know to which one it fell. V'achakach naflu shniyo. And then the second one fell in. V'yodulays man nafla, and you know to which one the second one fell. Kaflak. I don't say to the place the second one fell, the first one fell. Too bad. Ha! It's only if the first one which fell I knew where it was. Doesn't work retroactively.
Known and unknown.
Right. Known and unknown works, but unknown and known does not work. Right. If, however, one of them now, one of them now has enough to be mavata, whatever might have potentially fallen into it, then malu matir, that's okay. So you can take one up and be matir the rest of them. Vashni asura, but the other one remains aser achiyarvel or shogeg until you enough falls into there to make a mutter as well. So in other words, basically we're saying that in this case you are stuck because here the known commodity came after the unknown commodity, and therefore the only way they become mutter is if you get enough in each one to be mavatel the potential truma within it. Amar mashulamaton truma. So now we have a strange statement. You said you have here. We're shifting gears. And before Kavanaki says, we're talking now about a case where it's truma beverage, and some truma fell in. Some truma of beverage fell into chulin beverage. So you want to say that which is on top is the truma, and that which is on bottom is the chulin. Or vice versa, mashal matu chulin, mashal mal and truma. So it says more l'dai. Wait a minute, how can you say the thing? The mix is l'dai to ador totally. It's up to what he designates. Hogwash, right? It mixes together. V'af a mikveh kain, so to a mikveh. Amar mash. Well, this is really a counterattack. If that's the case, by mikvah also. Kivuya kshera. I'm sorry, skip. By mikvah kain, Omar ma shelamaton kivuya. I don't know, is this a counterattack? No, so it's still part of the question. By mikvah kain, Omar ma shelamaton kivuya kosher, if you said that which is below is collection of water, a mikveh, which is kosher. What that which is on top is only Mayim Shuvim, or that which is on the bottom is possible because of Mayim Shuvim, or that which is on top is kosher. How can you say such a thing? L'daito adover toli? Is it up to his opinion? Of course not. It all gets mixed together.
So I'm trying to figure out which is why you needed to remove the 20 sides.
Right. So the Gemara doesn't seem to answer this. The Gemara just leaves it difficult. Okay, how do we say by beverages? How do we deal with beverages, and how do we do with liquids? How do we deal in saying, I being able to isolate? And we see basically that you cannot isolate that which is on top from that which is on bottom, and so on and so forth, because it constantly is turning over. Okay, Atamar kupos malos mguros eino malos. You said that kupos baskets are all considered one safek, whereas piles are not. Hey Chavira, what is this talking about? Shtei meguros b'shtei here, 2 different piles in 2 different rooms. V'nafel aser truma toch achas man, and a measure truma falls into one of them. Shtei and asus both us, so I don't take them both into account as being universal. Reba al achas man beat l'shogeg. Similarly, if one of them got enough all of a sudden to be ovato bitl b'shogeg, ma'alovato, that one's okay. Vashnia, but the second one only sheyarbe shogeg. Only when it itself gets more than 100 muteris, it becomes permissible. Ve'ena tzricha aliyah. Yeah, he doesn't require.
Very little kenya amount. It's only a total sanor. Because what I can get.
He doesn't require to give one to a Kohen here.
Now there's many things.
Yeah, there's one. Naflas truma toch hasmen shtevas asuras, right? Reba achasmen bitla shogeg malu matir vashnia l'chshiarbu shogeg moteres. It also has to wait till it's shogeg because you can't go and just ruin the fence in your backyard in order. Not ruin the fence in your backyard. You can't just go and add on stuff to the crop in your backyard in order to be mavatal. You're not allowed to do that. Vashnia l'chshiarbu shogeg. It only comes to when it's done unintentionally. The thing is that once I went back, maybe I'm confused. It doesn't require picking one up. Shekvar also truma because he already picked up one. Let me say it outside because I don't know if I said it properly. I don't know if I made it clear inside. You have 2 different piles, and therefore they're not joined together. Each one has 50. Neither of them is 100. So now truma fell into one of them. So it's also, no matter what, until you get double that amount there, until you get another 50, right? Even when that one gets another 50 and it's 100 to 1, the other one is stuck. Until it also gets another 50. But once the second one gets 50 for another 50, so now it's 100 to 1. Since what fell in to begin with was only one measure. And when the first pile was mutter because another 50 fell in, you gave one to the Kohen already to correspond to that one measure. Now when the second pile becomes mutter, you don't have to give another fruit to the Kohen because he already got his allotment from the first crop. So even though it's a suffix, it's a limited suffix. It's not like that you give the Kohen more and more fruits. Right?
So in a way it is combining.
Yeah. It's a quasi combination, but not a full combination. That's basically
only after the first one becomes
right. And the first one goes about that's right. Okay. Rabbi Yisrael said, "Ma'isa boliv ne Rabbi Akiva chamisha magudos." Oh, back to the Mishnah.
That's what he's selling. He's selling what he's
the last few lines in the Mishnah.
fifth line.
Rabbi Yisrael. Ma'isa boliv ne Rabbi Akiva. Ma'isa gave Rabbi Akiva chamisha magudos she'erik with 50 bundles of vegetables. Shenafla echel l'toichel chetzi truma. And now another bundle of vegetables fell in, which was half truma and half chulin. Now here, if you go by bundles, you don't have enough. But if you go by amounts, then you have enough chulin, right? Because there are only 50 bundles, but there are 100 and change vegetables, let's call them. I mean, I don't know, it's assuming that there's only 2 vegetables in a bunch, but how many there are, right? 500 vegetables, whatever the case may be. So Shilas, we go by the amount of bundles that there are, then we go by the amount of vegetables there actually are in the bundles, okay? So it says, again, Rabbi Yossi, the Mishnah, Rabbi Yossi, Ma'aseh B'nei Rabbi Akiva, Chamisha Magul Shel Yerek, Rabbi Akiva, 50 bundles of vegetables, Shenaflu Achas L'Soicha, and where that one other bundle fell in, which was Chetzi Truma, was half Truma. And I said to him, Ta'aleh, let it come up. Lo shat truma oila be'chamish is not the proportion of 1 to 50 is enough. Rather that since we look at each bundle not by as a unit but as possessing separate units within it, so then only half the bundle was not properly was truma. So only half the bundle was truma, so therefore it doesn't answer the whole loaf. It only answers half of the loaf.
Was it one vegetable truma enough?
Yeah, it's not for sure. All right, I don't know if what I just said made sense. See, Mr. Zulu should have been here last night because I was awake last night. But tonight I'm not so sure. Okay. No, I'm just kidding. But let me do that again. It's not that the truma is working in 1 in 50, but rather coming up in 1 in 50 because I look at each bundle as half bundles, right? It's not. What I said was it's not a whole loaf. We look at half a loaf. You have 50 loaves. They're bundles. I know it's not loaves, but you get the idea. You have 50 loaves of bread. You can leave it and look at it as 50 loaves of bread. In which case, if a loaf which is half chulin, half truma fell in, so it's not batel. We can look at it as being 100 half loaves, and therefore 100 half loaves if chulin and truma fell in, so that's okay, and that's what I'm just saying. Tiny, we looked at Rabbi Yossi. Bolu malav shena bolu enu malav. Rabbi Yossi had his own personal chumrah. He said nothing that like this works. Has to be that it's mixed together completely. Otherwise, it doesn't work. Bundles of vegetables are not mixed together. So ask her, what does Rabbi Yossi do with our Mishnah? Rabbi Yossi, Ma'aseh B'nei Rabbi Akiva, the Ma'aseh came from Rabbi Akiva, B'chamishim akudos shel yerek, with 50 bundles of vegetables, Shenaflu achas hasoich, one that fell in, and it was half chulin and half chetzi truma and half truma, V'amalti l'vonav taleh, and it comes up. Hareinu bolu ma'aleh, it's not mixed together yet, it comes up. It works to cancel, they're not mixed. So it says the Maravina Boilam Meimar, so they want to say in the yeshiva that what you meant to say, that it's considered as if it's mixed, is because Davar she'eno makbid al taruvaso, something where you're not concerned whether it gets mixed up properly or not. Ma'aleh, it's considered as if it's mixed up, and therefore it's considered to be a valid transaction. In other words, I can now take, even though they're not ground together or not poured together, whatever, but since they're not makbid that they should tafka be together, that's enough that I can take from one on the other, even though they're separate commodities. Says the Gemara. And the flip side of that is if he's makbid that it shouldn't get mixed together, ain't no mali, you can't use in order to negate the truma. Says Moreh Chavida, where do we find such a case? Kishus may have to give you such a case. Kishus Tamea, you have a Tamei pumpkin, Shenobatoch Me'ek Shum Torah, which fell into 100 Torah pumpkins. Now, Torah is lav dafka, rather that they became moist. They're mukshar l'kabel tuma. Okay, so we have one pumpkin which is Tamei, which fell into 100 pumpkins, which are. So we're not mukshar kabel tuma. They're kshuin toherin, right? They're not mukshar kabel tuma. So in that case, hoveno makbid taruvaso male. Since he's not makbid on the tarova, so people don't care pumpkins can mix together. So therefore, it can work to cancel, to be male the truma, to cancel the truma which is in the pot. However, uksharu. If they're mukshar kabel tuma, the squashes. Then you're going to make sure that not to get mixed up Torah stuff with Tomei stuff. So since your makbid stuff shouldn't get mixed up, so therefore it cannot be mal. You can't take into account in making the proportion of about 1 to 100.
In this last case, are they all become kids since they're all muksher?
That's true. Unless there's mashkin. Mashkin will give equivalent, beverages will give an equivalent to everything across the board. But it might be moist. No, it's muksher. It means it might be moist, right? Yeah. Okay, and that's where in that case I say that he's makbid al taravoso, right? He doesn't want it to get mixed in together because they're all muksher kabel tu. Some of them are muksher kabel tuma. Okay, so in that case we say since it's makbid taravoso, so it's not going to work according to Rabbi Yossi. That's be the case where he's willing to put up with the taroivus. Okay, let's start the next parak. Parak Hey Alocha Aleph. You know what? Before we start, I need more coffee. Okay. That's what the yeshiva has. What do you think? It's intentional. By the way, next Tuesday, no, I'm not giving shiur.
Oh, because that works out perfect because they move the language place from Monday to Tuesday.
Oh, but it's only a one-time deal. Every little bit helps, right?
What?
Every little bit helps. Okay, Perek Ha'aloch Aleph. Seir Truma of Tmeya. Now, what happens if Truma Tmeya? If you have the right share to be Mavato? Well, truth we're going to speak about that now too. Until now we haven't spoken about the difference between whether Truma which fell in is Tamei or Tahor. Hasn't concerned us till now, but it makes a very big difference. That's about to learn. Seir Truma to Tmeya. Shenaflo Pachos Mimei Chulin. You have a say of Truma Tmeya measure with Truma Torah which fell into less than 100 of Chulin. It's not Batel. Or the Meiser Rishon, or it fell into less than 100 of Meiser Rishon, first Meiser, or Meiser Sheni, second Meiser, or Lektish for Ektish, Betmeim Beterm, regardless of whether the majority substance is Tamei or Tar, you're covered, the whole stuff has got to rot. Everything has got to rot. There's no takana here, there's no way, so you have to rot it. Okay? Meaning until it's goes disgusting. Okay, if you might saw Tahira Osasa, what however if that saw was Takatohar? In other words, one measure of Torah stuff fell in a manner that it's not Batel, right? And fell to less than 100, right? So then Yimachul a Kohen, you sell the mixture to a Kohen that made Truma for the price of Truma, Chutzid Me'el so except for the price of that one measure, which of course the Kohen should get for free, right? Vilna Meiser Rishon Nafla, if this one measure of Truma fell to Meiser Rishon, Yikol Shem LeTrumas Meiser Shabo, so you still have to sell to a Kohen, but before you do that, you have to designate part of it as Trumas Meiser. Because it's Meiser Rishon, in order to make a Mutatita, it has to have Trumas Meiser. Vila Meiser Sheil Ektish Nafla, if you said, if it fell to Meiser Sheil Ektish. So you give it all to a Kohen. Vareli Padu, at the same time you redeem the Meiser Sheni or the Hektish. Right, and you whatever it was, in order to use that money and go up to Yerushalmi and buy karbanos or buy futita, whatever the case may be. Vim Tmeim or you also chulin. What if Truma Tahira fell into chulin Tmeim? The chulin which is Tamei. Now, depends. You have several options. Yochul Nikudim. You can make a dough of this stuff and make tiny balls out of it, which are less than a beitza inside, because Tumas Ochlin only applies to the size of kibetza, and this will be less than a kibetza. Or kiloyos, you can make sure it never comes in contact with water, and so it's never going to be a kabel tumah. How do you do that? By toasting the grain, just having it as grain toast. Toasted kernels, you know. Or when you need the dough with fruit juice. because fruit juice makes pizza, and pizza gets a mazonos, right? Because fruit juice makes fruit juice is not makabel tuma, right? It's only one of these 7 beverages makabel tuma. So therefore, in order to prevent the truma from becoming tame, you need it not with water, you need it with fruit juice. Or yischalku. What? Just joking about what? Oh yeah, I was not asleep when I said it. It was a joke. Okay? Or you should knead it with fruit juice. Or you take little amounts from this dough or from this mixture and put it in other doughs. So it's always less than a gebetza. Again, it's always less than a gebetza, right? In order there should be no one spot where there's a gebetza. Okay, let's go to the Gemara. Tana Rabbi Chia. We learned Rabbi Chia said, Tevel Male. What happens if? Do you have Tana Rabbi Chia? You have a header on this one?
Yeah.
Amazing. That's cool. Tana Rabbi Chia said, learned. Tevel Malif, Truma falls into 100 of Tevel. So of this Tevel, eventually some's going to have to be Truma, right? If it's 100 Tevel, so 2 will be Truma. So since 2 of this will be Truma, you no longer have a cancellation proportion. Because the cancellation proportion is 100 to 1. But here you really only have 98 to 3. Right? Because 2 would be... Right, no, 1 fell in. But 2 of the 100 are going to be used to be Truma, 2%. 1/50th. So therefore, you could say it's not Batel, because it's 98 to 3 as opposed to 100 to 1. Nonetheless, that's not true. We don't say it. We say right now it's 100 to 1. Because right now it's Tevel, Truma's not yet been taken out, the Truma is Batel. It's a beautiful, beautiful chap, what the Gemara is saying. Okay? Tevel Malin. Sviche Shvi is the stuff which grows, it's permitted on Shemitah. Grows either vegetables or fruit, or it's the stuff which grows in a plowed field or a fallow field. Or even if it's grain, you're allowed to eat the Shemitah produce. So in any event, they're also Mala. How so? Tevel Mala v'kori shein l'mas choisav. Tevel Mala. And you take up 1, which you give to the Kohen as the Truma. And you have to be Meiser on that as well. Because as Tevel, the one you're actually giving to the Kohen, it's a Takana Rabbana to give it to the Kohen in order not to steal from the Shevet. But you don't actually know that was the one which was Truma, which fell in, right? It might have been from the Tevel. So even when you give to the Kohen, you have to take Meisers off of that. Okay? Because it might actually be Tevel and not Truma. Is that clear? Yeah, we had this a couple of times. Shvi'is, if something falls into Shvi'is fruit, malin minasul ochem, so you pick it up and you give it to people who eat Shemitah b'kedusha Shvi'is. In other words, in that case, you take the one which is Truma, or 1 off, which corresponds to Truma, it's 100, take 1 off, and you get it to somebody, a Kohen who'll eat it b'kedusha Shvi'is, because after all, we deal with Shemitah fruit over here, right? Now, this is true even though the Truma itself is not Shemitah fruit, because there's no Truma during Shemitah. The Truma is from the 6th year. And the stuff in which it fell is from the 7th year. But since the thing I'm giving to the Kohen, I don't know if it's a piece of Truma, or if it's just a piece of Shvi'is. So therefore I have to go, the Kohen has to go to Chumrah and assume it's potentially Shvi'is and eat it Kedusha Shvi'is. Okay, is that clear? He has to give it the stringencies of both commodities.
Is the onus the same, eating the Shvi'is and eating...
No. Eating Shvi'is is a lot, but worse. Whereas eating Truma, you're not supposed to use a chorus. That's why I have to go to a Kohen, regardless. Amar Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi said, Masdisa Amar Ken, our Mishnah teaches us this. Chafem Beis. Sa Truma Shenoflo Lepogos Mimei. It says in our Mishnah, if you have a measure which falls less than 100, or of Chulin, or the Ma'aser Rishon, or less than 100 of Ma'aser Rishon, first Ma'aser, Tiro Cave, it's got a rat. Neishu Lepogos Mimei Tirkov. Because it's less than 100 because it's less than 100 rats. But if it's more than 100, you pick it up. And v'lav tevelhu, isn't it talking about a case where it's even tevel vis-a-vis trumas u'maises, because it fell into meiser rishon, right? Meiser rishon is a quasi form of tevel, right? Because meiser rishon still needs what taken off of it? Trumas meiser. Nonetheless, we say that the meiser rishon cancels the truma. So to here, with the the truma falls into tevel mamish, the tevel cancels the truma, and that's our proof. There's circumstantial evidence for that opinion. Okay? Talmud Tanina, we learned over there. Very fundamental issue. You're allowed to use truma which became tamei as fuel. It's only bread and oil you can use as fuel. But not anything else. The Kavanoki explains, even in order to use pasur shemen as fuel, when they are truma tmeya, you must first make them repugnant to eat, and though you want to eat them. Not because they're you have to make them repugnant so nobody will eat them, and then you can use them to burn later on, right? Why is that? Because otherwise we're afraid people see a geschmack piece of bread, they don't know it's truma tmeya, they'll eat it. People see a geschmack oil, they'll dip with it. They don't know it's not from Shemitah, right? So therefore, in this case, we need to have. They don't know it's. They don't know that it's tummy, right? Because talking about Shumasha Nitma, right? They don't know it's tummy. You see, so therefore, you have to make the stuff disgusting in order that people will refrain from eating it. Okay? Yeah. Because it's functional here. It's tummy anyway, right? But the thing is like this. So Shah calls Varim low. Anything else, you can't do that to, because everything else doesn't become disgusting as readily. Rabbi Yochanan Amar, no, lo shan is no difference. Hu pas, hu shem, shakos varim. You can use anything to burn, even stuff which is the truma cantaloupes. You can burn that too. You can also use that as fuel. Might not be efficient, but you can use it as fuel. Rabbi Yudan Karbukaya, boy, he stated, chitim kepas. That grain is like the bread, and zaytim v'shem and olives are like the oil. They're dirty and disgusting very readily, and therefore I say that you can leave them around to burn, because you make them disgusting, and people won't have a timer for them. Okay, they're not going to come to eat them, even though they're tummy. Rav Shmuel bar Nachman, Mishum Rabbi Yonasan. Rav Shmuel Nachman said, name Rabbi Yonasan, Hamadlik bepashel truma, somebody who burns a bread of truma, Yisofel atzmo Yisov, may his bones burn. Why is that? Because we're afraid he's going to leave the bread around too long before he burns it, and he's going to come to eat it. And he doesn't know the svara that we can make it disgusting in order to make sure that people stay away from it. Pashul Truma Tmeya, right. Even though it just says Truma, it's Pashul Truma Tmeya. Regular Truma not allowed to burn, ever. Truma Torah not allowed to burn, period. There's only Truma Tmeya. If I tell you about issue of burning, it's only Truma Tmeya. Rav Shmuel bar Nachman said to someone in Yerushalmi, he asked Haloch L'mais, he was a Kohen. But Rabbi Yochanan asked for Rabbi Yochanan, am I allowed to light with my candle with Truma Tmeya oil? Amar le, he said to him, Atlik, yes, do so. Amar nafil shiftach nafilach, what has befallen the rest of your shavuot will befall you. In other words, nothing. You're okay. It's not a curse. It's a blessing, if anything. He says, go ahead, don't worry about it. How come even Chizkiah agrees that oil, when it becomes tamei, you can burn. He only be argued by bread, not by oil. Why is that? Because it's explicit pasuk. I gave them to you, truma, and then it says the word lemashcha. What does lemashcha mean? It means to oil, but it means several other things. Lemashcha means to anoint with oil, and therefore it means l'kedula, to eat them in a splendid way. Lemashcha, I gave you truma to sicha in order to use to oil yourself as an antiperspirant. Lemishcha latlika, and it says lemishcha also means to light, to ignite. So we know Truma Torah you can't use to make a fire. So this must be talking about Truma Tmeya, and since Hashem gave specifically Truma Tmeya to Kohanim as a gift in order to burn, so we can't deprive them of that. Okay? Tanina, we learned. Saw Truma Tmeya. Shenafla Pachs Mea Chulin. You have a saw of Truma Tmeya which fell to less than 100 Chulin. Ben Tmeim Betarim Yirakvu. Whether the Chulin was Tomei or Tar, everything rots. Nicha Tarim Yirakvu. I understand when it fell into Tar stuff, it rots. El Tmeim Amayir Kavu. But if it's Tomei, why do they rot? Burn it! I'll die to Chizki or Nicha Yirkavu. Quite a Chizki, I understand why you rot them, because if you're going to wait till a time when it's advantageous to you to burn, in the meantime you might come to eat it. And therefore Chizkiah says, in this case, just put it out in the compost pile to rot. Okay? That's the best thing. Why does it say they have to rot? Use them as fuel. So Rabbi Yochanan says, no. In our case, you know where you can leave Truma Tmeya in order to burn it later on? When it's Mamish Truma Tmeya. Because then people are going to stay away from it, because it's Tamei Doraisa, and it's going to cause you kares if you eat it. But by our Mishnah over here, which we're discussing, you make it look bad in order to prevent yourself from eating it.
Well, he is not.
Scratch that. Bad. Let me say it over again. Rabbi Yochanan said Truma Tmeya in its pristine self. I'm not concerned that you're going to eat it, and therefore you can leave it out to burn it. But here it's about Truma Tmeya, which became meduma. It became mixed into other substances. And therefore here I'm afraid that if I let you leave it around, you're going to say, it's not gefährlich. Midaraisa it's bottle anyway, right? Because midaraisa it's chad betray. Midarabbanan they required all these chumras of 100 to 1. Chumras. Who needs chumras? So therefore, then you're going to come to eat it. Because you're going to say it's bottom midaraisa, and we don't want that to happen. Okay? So I have to say here, Shema Yibtza Ben Aliyah, maybe you'll find some plot, some excuse to go and eat them, and therefore here, we don't allow him to leave them around to burn them. Rather, we tell him to immediately put them out in the compost pile and get rid of them. Why can't you burn them right away? Because midaraisa it's bottom. Right? Midaraisa, the Truma Tmeya, has been cancelled out. So what are you going to burn it for? Midaraisa, you can eat it. And Truma, wherever you can eat it, you're not allowed to burn it. So that's why you have to wait till it rots and put it out on the rotting pile immediately. Okay? Something which is not going to get mixed up well, meaning it can't get repugnant so easily, which Chizkiah's major complaint was, right? Stuff which doesn't get repugnant so easily, you can't leave around. So in that case, you're right, even Rabbi Yochanan agrees, you have to get rid of it right away. You have to dispense it right away if it's meduma. But even meduma, which people might come to be more lenient concerning, nonetheless, if it can get mixed up, it's true that you might come to a stumbling block, but we're not choishish for that. We tell you, make it disgusting so you won't come to eat it, and whenever you get around to it, you can burn it. Okay? We're on top of Chol Pavel Alf now, right? We're less than 10 blocks behind. Won't last, but today's blot is Lam and Vav. Okay? All Ektish v'chulei. So if it falls into Ektish, the same idea. Says more of Lokne Kantina. Didn't we learn? Ein Ektish al Makom Mushaita. Wait a minute. Hektish gets its time and place, meaning you have to redeem Hektish. So how can you just say let it rot? Do you need to redeem Hektish and give the money to the base on Mikdash? Before you let it rot, you have to redeem it. Says more it's in a city which has been destroyed. When you can't sell it there. I feel it made even not that it should be used for wood. So therefore, that money which would have been coming to Hektish had been able to sell it doesn't come to them, or if it because there's no capacity to make any sales in the local city. Do you have that header?
However, we see
You have Hoda Masnisa? What do you have as next words?
When Eliezer Yehuda tells over the story of love, and he says, he says,
Chada.
he repeats the story. He says, they are
Okay, so I have a slightly different girsa. Hada masnisa Torah b'Torim. Our mission is talking about a case where Torah fell into Torah. Avotorim by the Meiser Rishon case where the Truma fell into Meiser Rishon. Avotorim b'Tmeim. But what happens if Torah stuff fell into Tomei stuff? In other words, Meiser Rishon was Torah. That's what we learned. In other words, that there's more complicated because there, by Meiser Rishon, we just said in the Mishnah that if they're Tomei, if the Chulin was Tomei, so and it fell into that, then we said, I think, Yerukvu, what do we say there?
He was speaking to love them, though.
Let me do it over again. So our bishops talk about Torah b'Torah. If Torah fell into Tomei, that we learned if it's Tomei that it has to rot. But now, if what happens if Truma Tmeya fell into Meiser Rishon, which is Tomei? No. Truma Tahira fell into Meiser Rishon, which is Tomei. Okay, right, I got it now. If Truma Tahira fell into Chulin, which is Tomei, so then we said that you make small balls of it, and you make small balls, you divide it to less than a base or whatever the case may be. So the Truma is not going to become Tomei. But what if Truma Tmeya fell into Meiser Rishon? Now it's not just enough to make small balls, because you still have to take off Trumas Meiser. How are you going to take off Trumas Meiser on it? Right? Because it fell into Meiser Rishon. In order to make it mutter, you need to do two things. A, to prevent Tumah from spreading from the Truma Tmeya to the rest of the mixture. So for that, you make small pieces. But B, you also have to take off Trumas Meiser. And you want to take off Trumas Meiser, which is Tor. So how you take off Trumas Meiser, which is Tor? Take it from some other batch, which still remains Tor, on this batch, which has Truma Tmeya in it. Okay? So that's what you do. Al Dait Rabbi Yossi Nicha. So according to Rabbi Yossi, that's good. The Amar Rabbi Yossi b'Shem Chizkiah Rabbi Yonah said b'Shem Yane when the Sati V'Men is Trumas Hashem l'Aaron a Kohen. When you give to Trumas Meiser, you give it to Aaron as a Kohen. Asay l'Sheina say l'Aaron b'Kunaso. Make sure that it's given to Aaron in a way that he can eat as a Kohen. So therefore, the value of him having Trumas Meiser to eat is superior to the value of taking Trumas Meiser from the batch itself. Right? Because from the batch itself, it will be Tomei, and he won't be able to eat it as a Kohen. He'll have to burn it. Therefore, I say, take it from somewhere else and apply it to this batch. Eladaiti, the Kana Bagun, Rav Kana Duamar said, told me Namakur Shabo. Rav Kana said the overriding value is to always take the Trumas Meiser from the batch itself. So here, even though the batch is Tomei, and more Rav Hacha told me Namakur Shabo, will you say that in our case as well? He says more, no. Avagav Kana Amar Tamon, even though Kana said over there, told me I'm Kudishabo. Normally should take Trumas Meiser internally from the Meiser itself. Moide Achir concedes the Dover Shuzakalina where you have to give it to the Kohen to eat. There you can take Trumas Meiser extrinsically some other batch on this batch over here. So where Truma Tmeya falls into Chulin, all you do is divide it up into small pieces so there's no Beitza. Or not Machshir L'Kabel Tumah. But where Truma Tmeya falls into Meiser, you have to do an additional thing to make sure your Trumas Meiser is okay. So you take off Trumas Meiser from somewhere else on this batch and not internally. Teyachol Nikudim, you can eat Nikudim, what are Nikudim? Hadei Nikudim Kahadei Chatzoi Beitzim. Nikudim means they're small like half Beitzim. And that's how you avoid the tumor spreading. Alright, we'll stop here for this evening. So we're in Chav Vav Amud Aleph, right?